Professor Segbers, thank you very much for coming. As the director of the Center for Global Politics, we would like to ask you a few questions about the International Relations online program.
Professor Segbers, what was the main goal of the Center for Global Politics in creating international relations online?
Difficult to answer just with one reason. Maybe there are at least two. The first one is that today, and that may be different from like 20, 50 years ago, everything international, everything global, also everything European, is much more relevant for every one of us than ever before. So we are ever more exposed to what's happening in the world. And when that is the case, I think it is also probably reasonable to offer people the opportunity to understand it better when they are affected anyways. And I think that's true not only for like students your age, for example, but it's also true for professionals who have jobs in companies, for example, in the media and NGOs and international organizations or something like that, to permanently have the opportunity to get some kind of additional teaching and additional understanding for what they are doing. And not only in their own specific area of activity, but also a little bit broader, because globalization affects everyone and every type of business, right? So that is the reason why we decided to do that, to offer a continuous learning master program, particularly for those people who already have a job and are maybe a little bit older than early or mid-20s. So I think that's a very important thing. And the other aspect is that we also try to develop new teaching forms. Like obviously when we have a blended learning program, that means in our case we have 90% online teaching and 10% on-site teaching in Berlin. So twice a year the students have to come for 1 week to Berlin. And that is a lot of interactivity. That's also very different techniques of teaching and of learning. It is supported and assisted by all kinds of new developments in the IT sector, so we can do many more things than ever before. We can offer visuals, we can offer, let's say, modules or units which you cannot only read but also listen to, and these kind of things. And that is something which I personally think is the future, actually, of tertiary education in general. Universities have to be prepared to cater much more for those more mature, a little bit older people than in the past. And because we had this idea, I think we are very eager to develop it and to make clear that it can work. And so far, after 12 years, I think it can work.
What would you say sets the program, the International Relations Online program from the Center for Global Politics, apart from other international relations master programs that are available?
Maybe two things. One I mentioned already, that is that we are not a program which is happening 12 months a year on the ground here in Berlin. So there is no need, when you are living in Caracas or in Barcelona or whatever, to move to Berlin to do the program. You can stay where you are, and then you have to tune into learning platforms and can access our teaching aids and our readings and to contact with instructors and with the classmates. So that is certainly different from the majority of master programs in IR or in global politics. That is number one. Number two is more a content-related thing, that traditionally, if you read the classical textbooks on international relations, they are very, very much focusing on the role of nation states. And that is clear because 2,500 years when the thinkers in the ancient Greek city-states started to reflect about how political units are relating to each other, it was basically in lead about states. There were no NGOs or something like that, and there were hardly any transnational corporations. But today we have a different world, and all these groups of actors, be it terrorist networks and big companies and Facebook and Google and social networks and terrorists, I mentioned already, NGOs, they play a significant role in the international landscape. And so when we still continue focusing only on the role of governments and nation states, I think it's clearly not enough. And so that's another difference we try to make, that we broaden our horizon and we try to include all these other new groups of actors and focus not only on the role of governments.
Another question is about politics. As a result of ongoing acceleration and globalization, states and especially governments are not really able to react to worldwide crisis, for example. Is it necessary to change the whole system? Is it necessary to to change the democratic systems in order to give governments the opportunity to react to crisis?
Very big question. When I would know the answer, I probably could make a lot of money. So I'm not quite sure if I can answer that right now, but let me try to reframe it and to come up with at least 2 or 3 concrete questions which could at least then discussed and reflected about. The first one is that, as you mentioned, acceleration. Indeed, we probably can watch something like that. Many things are developing quicker. For example, capital markets. For example, high-frequency trading, where software programs actually take decisions about buying and selling something, right? Assets are not people, not human beings. We have the same in the sphere of life patterns, consumption, IT, and so on. But in politics, acceleration is happening much slower than in the other areas, which means that politicians are addressing problems, and when after a long time of deliberation and finding compromises, negotiating, whatever, they finally come up with some kind of reform or assumed solution, the parameters of the crisis they want to address already have changed. So they are trying to address problems from yesterday or the day before, and it takes a very long time to come to any kind of solution. So the efficiency of representative democracies, and partly also of authoritarian systems, is relatively low, or getting lower. That's a big issue. Along the same lines, another issue is that what we are watching right now, we are right now in the process, is a dramatic rise of populism all over the world. We have it in smaller countries, but important countries like Hungary and Poland. We also have it in bigger countries like Russia. We have it in lots of EU countries when you check out governing coalitions, where many coalition partners actually are populist parties. We very recently have seen a process which was quite worrying in Austria, where the 2 big parties managed to get together in the presidential election about 22 or so percentages, and they were at 2/3, now they are 22. With a little bit delay, we have similar developments in Germany as well. And then we obviously have the United States, where it is very much in the cards that Sanders not anymore, but Trump very much could happen to become the next president of the United States of America. So what are we going to do when we find election results which technically were okay, so no manipulation, but the outcome of these elections is a new populist president with access to nuclear weapons, with a huge influence for the rest of the world? That is something where, frankly, we don't quite have a solution right now. So these kind of issues are major issues, and one reason more to join international relations, I would say, right? Because we have to think about that seriously.